going from one of the most long-winded presentations last year, this year's Aston Martin presentation was one of the shortest. You could say they were a little bit too hyper-focused. So Aston Martin's 2024 car has been dropped, and the main vibe I'm getting from this is that this car is drowning. It's drowning in carbon fiber. The side pod is being slowly consumed, the green disappearing, and the carbon fiber is But seriously, not even Aston Martin is safe from the dreaded carbon fiber, which we were given a reprieve of from the V-Carb livery reveal. The link to it you can actually go and watch up top, as well as a playlist of the other liveries that came out. I say livery reveals, more like carbon fiber reveals. Sure, look at the carbon fiber weave stitching on that Alpine, eh? But as to the livery itself, Aston Martin, I feel, is in the same area that Red Bull is right now. They have designed a livery which perfectly encapsulates the overall design and aesthetic of the team. Aston Martin is known for its British racing green, as well as its lime little stripe, which means that last year, they managed to get it absolutely spot on, and I remember in my livery review back then saying, it's perfect, they don't need to change it, it's absolutely fine the way it is. It's perfectly summed up what the team is. But I am still really weirded out by this presentation being really quick. It was really long last time, and I remember the visuals of Papa Stroll talking, and then everyone else talking, and everyone who was paid or forced to watch just looking like, yes, master, it's very nice. And yeah, granted, 12 months ago, Aston Martin weren't exactly doing well with the results. They were suffering 2022's initial absolute drubbing. But the car itself, it's still a design classic. The Aston Martin Racing Green is still absolutely peachy. And I am so glad that the line of lime, the lime line, is still in the limelight. But I am still really bummed out that the carbon fiber has just been slowly rising up the waterline of the side pod, and it breaks the flow. That lime line should really be, I'll try saying that 4 times fast. That lime line should really be the divider between the carbon fiber, being the shield protecting us from the carbon fiber threat, and then just kind of breaking things up. But without that, it just looks uneven. But these are real little nitpicks here, because overall, it is basically the same as the 2023 car. And the little water slides on the side pod, they are carbon fiber as well. But I excused that last time out because most of the time, you don't often see that on the cameras. And for some reason, it sort of works. But I think if they're going to go down the carbon fiber route, these teams, why do they paint the halo black? Is there some kind of regulation that means that they have to or something? Because there is a difference between black and carbon fiber, as we saw with the W14 last year, where they just said, oh, it's all black. No, it's not. There is a difference. You may as well just make the entire car carbon fiber, Mercedes. But again, this is still an absolute peachy looking car. I am so glad that they kept the overall aesthetic. And when you combine it with other cars in their entire lineup, it just looks right. Everything is just even. They're road cars with the lime accents, Aston Martin Racing in other categories, including the World Endurance Championship campaign coming out next year. That's lime green and British Racing Green. Oh, everything is in sync, and I am loving this. And the race suits themselves, not much has changed in terms of Fernando Alonso being absolute demigod when it comes to social media. This is a changed man, seriously. I'm completely weirded out and also captivated by Fernando Alonso's embracing of social media. For the longest time, I didn't think he would be somebody who would even give the time of day for that sort of thing, but Aston Martin's completely changed him. I never really thought I would be saying this, but I kind of miss Cognizant on the side pod. I'd just gotten so used to seeing Cognizant on the side of it that I was cognizant about it not being there anymore, and Aramco taking up shop because they are now the sole sponsor in terms of the team's overall entry list title, because it is Aston Martin Aramco Formula 1 racing team or something like that. It doesn't really matter, but they're the only ones there. Cognizant has been now relegated to the front wing. They've drastically cut down their budget because they realised Aston Martin is doing too good right now and we basically can't afford it. And I'm really not sure about that boss placement there. If this had been like 2008, when we had all of those little winglets on the top of the side pods and stuff like that, that would be okay. That would make a lot of sense, but we don't have those anymore. It's been cleaned up. So I don't really understand why the response is still there, especially when you could have just put the boss logo where the Aston Martin text is on the airbox, because Usually when you put the overall name of your team on there, it kind of looks like you're lacking in sponsors, which Aston Martin are not. And I understand they might be advertising their own cars, but surely the team itself would be advertising its own cars. But I suppose, to be fair, they've also got the Aston Martin logo where Ferrari puts their logo usually, so maybe I can give it a pass. It's fine. And also, isn't it weird that the oil companies are usually the sticklers when it comes to enforcing their own colours in certain places? Orlen at AlphaTauri and VCarb with their own red, which VCarb have actually integrated in pretty well. And then Aramco on the rear wing, they've been tolerant up to a point, and then have just gone like, no, you have to do it on the rear wing, that green and blue. I don't mind that colour scheme, it actually looks quite nice, and it's a little bit better integrating because, you know, it is a rectangle, but it's still really weird that it's the oil companies that which are being the party poopers right here. It's just really odd. But I'm just looking at it, and the side view, apart from just that carbon fiber waterline just ever encroaching upwards, it looks really nice. And then a top-down view, oh, that is spicy. It is very nice. Yes, I know it's a British registered team and I've got to really control my British bias. No, it's not the best looking car, but it's certainly a good one. Fortunately, Aston Martin have been very generous when it comes to overall renders of the car. And from what we can see right here, this is pretty much what we're going to be seeing most of the time. So long as there is some green on the car, we can distinguish this car from all of the other cars. And I don't really mind the carbon fiber front wing because it sort of does flow well in a way. I don't know whether this is just me coping on the fact that we are just going to have to stick with this until new regulations. And I'm still bamboozled. Really? You're losing all this colour for the sake of 1 kilogram? You really couldn't find it anywhere else? Seriously? That's the difference that a full coat of paint gives to a carbon fibre fabric. It's a kilo. 1,000 kilos. It's a bag of sugar. Bag of sugar. Where have we come to in a world where we are discussing a livery and being grateful there is even paint on the car? This is a really serious debate, folks, but Aston Martin have been slightly more clever with it, and when we get to the McLaren livery reveal later in the week, the proper one, which you can find out about as soon as it drops by clicking subscribe down there, you will find out that they've been clever with the IndyCar collaboration. They've got an excuse. Aston Martin kind of have an excuse as well because it is relatively in sync with their cars in other different disciplines because there is carbon fiber there too, but they are kind of over-egging the pudding in a way. But this is one of the least troublesome offenders because last year's livery was absolutely stunning. It grew on me quickly, especially when it was starting to do well. And now, this is most important here, that team has been known to be successful and get multiple podiums. This livery is going to have positive emotions about it, positive associations with success. And Fernando Alonso finally getting some silverware again. So immediately everyone is going to love it more by default. You remember the MCL60? Nobody liked it at all because it wasn't doing well. And then suddenly when it did do well, people started to warm up to it, even with the baby blue. Success does breed love, generally. And I am still liking this livery. The sponsorship placements are improved, but still, this is getting really worrying here, and they've been a bit too cheeky on the side pod. And still, I'm just missing that cognizant. It's been there ever since they became Aston Martin, and now it's changed, but yeah, things change all the time. There have been plenty of changes up and down the grid, as you can find out in this playlist here of all the liveries that I have reviewed thus far, and the ones that will soon to be revealed.